let's get started. My name's James. I'm the CTO at Cynozure. I will tell you a very quick bit about us, and then we'll get straight into to the content here. So I'm going to be talking today about how to be a good technology buyer. So Cynozure is a data and analytics strategy consultancy. So we help people write their data strategies and implement their data strategies, along with a whole load of other stuff. So we have a great network of chief data officers. We support people with training, community events, put in delivery teams to implement your solution, whatever that looks like. Provide a lot of advisory and leadership services to people. And we do it for a whole load of different people. These are just a few of them, small and large, everything from like FTSE 100s right down to tiny little charities that are just looking for a bit of guidance and help. But I don't want to spend ages talking about us. I want to spend time talking about how to be a good technology buyer. So I've got a little video just to demonstrate the kind of problems you might have all experienced when you go to the technology market and you're looking to purchase a product. Fingers crossed it plays. Oh, hold on. It's not coming out there. Just get our technical expert. Just there.
Let me run back up to the top.
Yep, give you 2 seconds.
Business Edition Gold. Software that can do everything. You can compose documents, develop spreadsheets, create presentations, automate customer relations, update your company's Facebook page, delete unwanted LinkedIn emails, micromanage projects, read today's paper, edit home movies, open and close your garage door, all in the same application.
I mean, it was a little overwhelming at first, but I figured it out. I guess I'm figuring it out.
On the mobile app, I kept selecting the wrong things. That's totally on me. I have fat fingers.
And because of our revolutionary finger prick technology, it is the most secure database, presentation, project management, home connectivity, social media, sales, and customer analyzation bookkeeping platform on the market.
So I'm sure anyone who's ever tried to buy something has experienced that kind of thing. You may have had that today at the conference or yesterday if you were here, that you've got a problem and you're looking for a solution and you think you need a piece of technology to buy it. And everybody has told you that you should buy their thing, and their thing is a reporting tool, or it's a database, or it's a data quality tool, or it's a piece of consultancy services, or it's a real-time streaming tool, or any one of the other million things that you can buy out there. And somehow all of them are going to fix exactly the same problem you've got. And if you're not a technology expert, if you haven't spent ages reviewing the market, if you aren't a software engineer by trade, if this isn't your specialty, it's really, really difficult to figure out what you should buy and not just be bought into the first person that you meet or the nicest sales guy that you talk to. So I want to talk through, in 8 movie quotes, how to be a good buyer, how to kind of tackle that market, and how to get the right answer for yourselves when you're buying technology. So, show me the money. The first thing, before you even think about going to go buy any technology, is you need to understand what you're trying to achieve, where you're trying to get to, what the value the thing you are doing is going to give to your organization. Because if you don't do that, you've definitely failed straight off the bat, and any work that follows is ultimately not going to do what you need. It's show me the money because for most organizations, not every single one we've dealt with, but for most organizations, ultimately everything you do comes back to money. It's about making more profit, it's about saving money, it's about being more efficient. Could be anything. But ultimately, you need to put a pound sign on it for most organizations that are commercial to want to go forward. So you've got to start there, because that's the thing that you're going to be testing later when you go out to the market. The second thing you need to think about, because this is what every sales guy you engage with is going to be doing when they look at you, is do you have the authority, do you have the budget to go ahead and make this purchase? Because that is an assessment all the vendors, all the agencies you engage with are going to be making a very quick judgment on, because they're not going to want to spend time with you if they don't think that you can actually buy their product. Their job is to sell things. If you can't buy things, then you're not worth their time speaking to. We see a lot of engagements fail because internally, the people who are doing the procurement, who are trying to buy something, they just don't have the buy-in internally to go and do it. So they might get to the point where they're just about to make the purchase, and someone in their senior leadership team says, hang on a minute, what's going on? And they stop the whole process. They realize that they didn't actually have the budget and authority to sign off on this. If you've ever done any kind of sales stuff, you might be familiar with BANTs, so budget, authority, needs, and timeline. These are the kind of like assessments people are going to be making of you. So before you go out to buy something, you need to be really clear. Is this early days, greenfield, you're just trying to get a feel for the market and be clear up about that? Or are you in a position where you can buy, and can you make sure that it's clear that the people you're engaging with, that you're the person that they need to be dealing with, and that should you go ahead, should you have all those things, your organization is aligned behind doing this, and there's not someone who's going to trip you up at the last minute. I mostly just wanted to put a topless Jeff Goldblum picture in my presentation, but I managed to find a quote that worked around it. Something I've said to a lot of people that have been by our stand over the last couple of days is, do you really need to buy a piece of technology to solve the problem that you think you've got? Because I'm sure we've all experienced that technology is the first thing that gets blamed when there's problems in an organization. It's a really easy target for people to go to and say, this thing doesn't work, or it's slow, or it doesn't have all the features it needs, or it's hard to use, and therefore I can't do the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. So you go and buy a piece of technology, you replace it, you implement it, you spend a lot of money perhaps doing so, and then it still doesn't work because the technology was never the problem. It's because you didn't have the process in place. It's because you didn't have the skills you need in place. It's because you didn't have that target value end state that you're trying to get to in place and well understood. So you just set up to fail from the start, and technology is never the problem. So many places that we go into tell us, this tool is terrible, it really doesn't work, and they're describing a market-leading tool that there are tons of really, really good implementations of out there, so you can immediately tell there are other problems here that you need before you go and buy a new piece of technology. Dealing with those first is normally more cost-effective because it's normally about people, it's normally about process and finding those problems and peeling them away and however you need to, resolving those issues. And what you might find once you've done that as well is that where you thought the problem lied, where you thought you needed a specific tool, maybe you thought you needed a reporting tool, that the problem wasn't there. What you really needed was a governance tool, because actually the underlying issue is people don't believe the data. It's not that they couldn't consume it in a nice visual format. So you really need to stop yourself and go, have I sorted everything else out non-technical first, and am I geared up and ready to go and make this purchase? Back to the first point, and do I know why I am actually going out to buy that purchase? So before, or once you've kind of done those first steps, so you know why you need to buy something, you know that technology is the thing that you need, you've solved all the process problems, you're ready to go, you've got the authority, you've got the budget in place, and you're in buying mode, you need to do some research. I mean, we all know what happened to the guy who didn't do his research on Jesus and the Holy Grail. He picked the wrong chalice and he died. You need to pick wisely, and the only way you can do that, the quote I nearly went with this was 70% of archaeology is done in the library, reading and research. It's the same for technology buying. You need to go and you need to spend time consuming everything you can about the tool that you're interested in, or the industry, the sector. So let's say you're buying a reporting tool. Go and read about all of the market leaders. Look at Gartner, look at Forrester, read blog posts, watch YouTube videos, look for customer references you might be able to speak to who are a user of that. Attend an event like this and speak to people and see if they've got great experiences of it or if they've got bad experiences of it. This is really important because the only way you're going to cut through all of the marketing speak when you go and you engage with pre-sales consultants or sales teams is by understanding the market and the industry, understanding the features that you'd expect to have, understanding the pitfalls and the downfalls of certain product sets so that you can check, are those problems still there? Have they got ways of resolving them? Is it still an issue and might it affect me? So you really, really need to educate yourself, especially if you're coming from a position where you're not an expert in the specific field that you're going to go and buy. Once you've done that, so you now know everything about the product set that you want to buy. You're an expert on reporting tools, and you think you know which one it is. You need to take a step back and go, am I going for the most simple possible solution that I possibly can to solve my problem? Because it's really easy with technology to get excited and carried away by buying all kinds of different things. But the reality is, most of the organizations that are walking around this building today and yesterday are not yet in a position where machine learning's the thing that they should be going and doing, or clever advanced statistics and AI, or real-time streaming and processing. And many of them may never need to get there, or that's certainly a long-term kind of goal. What they need to get back to is get their fundamentals in place, focus on the most high-value adding things that they can do with the least difficulty and as quickly as possible. The best technical architectures you get delivered are the ones that look really, really simple. Someone can give you a picture of the architecture they're going to use to solve your problem, and it's one box. That's awesome, right? They've taken out the complexity. They've said this is the least you need to give you what you need to do. That's what you should be looking for. That's really important because you can solve problems in different ways. Kind of like to use the analogy of, I want to get somewhere. I want to travel from point A to point B. I can walk, I can buy a bike, I could have a taxi, I could take a plane, I could take a supersonic jet, I could take a boat. All of those are valid ways to get from A to B. But if A to B is just walking across this room, I'd be a fool to go and buy a jumbo jet to get me to do that. That would be insane. I need to find the most simple way, the quickest way that gets me to the point where I want to be. I don't need to buy the solution that, while it gets me there and does loads of other things at the same time, are things I really don't need and are going to cost me a load of extra money and a load of extra time and just aren't worth having. Try again. Oh, there you go. So you need a plan when you go to market. Most organizations, especially larger ones, will go through some kind of procurement process where they are comparing different tool sets, they're taking vendor responses, they're asking different questions. You need a really clear plan about how you're going to go to market, what you're going to do, what questions you ask, what criteria you are assessing things on. The number one most important thing you need to be asking is back to that first point. How does your tool help me solve this specific, clearly articulated problem that I know is going to deliver me loads of value? If your vendor can't simply articulate why their product is exactly the right thing to do that, they can't give you examples of other places that have tried to do the same thing as you and have succeeded with their product. I'm sure you might have heard that kind of the story of, like, if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, you don't understand it well enough. It's the same thing here. A vendor should be really easily able to translate your need into their product and vice versa. But you've got to be super clear on your need, you've got to be super clear on the value you're going to add, and super clear on why you need it in order for them to be able to do that. Anyone who starts to work around that, to start to say, oh, I do all these other things, you can probably rule them out straight away, because you're only interested in that one thing, which is why it's so important to know what that is. So, when you get to buying, every vendor is ready to make an offer, and depending on where you are in the year, the size of your organization, there's a deal to be made normally. Now, some of this is going to be dictated like heavily by size. I certainly wouldn't buy, say, a price per user kind of product. If I had 10,000 users, I'd be looking to go and make a deal that says I can have as many users as I want, or I'll move to a different type of model, like a capacity-based model. Coming at a different time of year, so understanding perhaps where the product you're interested year end is really helpful, because sales guys are going to be wanting to make their number by the end of the year, so they're going to be more likely to give you a deal in order to hit their numbers. So it depends how cautious and how slow and crafty you're prepared to be with this kind of thing. But there's definitely always a deal to be made. Now, you do need to be asking yourself something when you're doing that. If you're pushing too hard on things, something's probably going to give on the other side. So do you know things like how many users you need and how much does your licensing give you? Do you understand if there's any like server or compute limits? So for example, some licensing might be you're allowed 4 cores and there's a license for every 4 cores. You need to know that, because if you're going to grow over time, that license cost is going to go up. So what it looks like on day 1 isn't where it's going to be on day 300. Are there any reasons at some point that I would be forced to upgrade and therefore blow my budget and spend more than I was expecting to? Are there any limits? Are there any functionality and features I don't get with the price that I'm currently paying you? And what would I have to pay in order to get access to those features and make sure that I can use them? What level of support do I get? So that is a often overlooked and really important thing to understand, because there's some organizations that give really, really good support. In fact, I'll give a shout out to Cloudera, who are sponsoring this room. I used to work at M&S. We were a Cloudera customer, and their support was top notch. We were dealing with ex-engineers who knew their stuff. They were really impressive. Other organizations, I was talking to a lady from Five Guys earlier, and she was saying they use a tool that when they ask for help, they often just get sent a URL back for the help page or the article that explains that, and that's just not the level of support you want, and it might not be the level of support you're expecting to pay for. So you really need to factor that in, because that can be a really hidden cost when you're buying technology, that you don't get the support you need and you have to go get an additional agency, an offshore support company, whatever it is, to look after the product and actually kind of make it work. And this isn't biased just because I'm a service consultancy, but the one area where this maybe doesn't apply or you need to think carefully about is when you're dealing with a services industry, because if you force a sales guy to bear the minimum cost possible, that's going to directly have a knock-on on the types of resources that they can afford to put on the project. So if you're saying, I'm going to pay you £100 a day, guess what? That is not a very big salary for someone, so you're going to have a very junior resource for that, and that might not actually be value for money in the long run, because it's not going to get you the solution and expertise you need to get to the point you need to be. But likewise, you don't need to overpay for those kind of things. You need to think about what's the right price point, and does the value that you're getting out of the thing you're doing align to the cost that you are paying for it. And if you're comfortable with that, then that's the right price for you. So the final point I'll make on this, is it going to double skip? There we go. That is a mistake that we see quite often, is that you've made your purchase, fantastic. Whatever it is now ready to start. That might be some consultants are coming on site to deliver something. That might be the service engineer is coming in to install technology for you or configure security or whatever it is that you need to have done for the thing you've bought. And they turn up on site and you go, hi, sorry, so-and-so isn't in today, or we haven't got you a laptop ready, or we don't have access to the system, or whatever the problem is. And you're burning valuable time that you're probably going to be paying for and getting absolutely zero out of it, because despite you knowing that 2 months before someone was going to be coming in to do this, you didn't go through the process to get ready for them and make sure they had everything they needed to do a successful delivery. So this is about being not only a good buyer, but a good customer once you're in, and making sure that you get absolutely the most out of the thing you've bought, because this is a mistake that's so easy to do because it can take so long in bigger organizations to say, get someone a laptop. I'm sure people have probably joined an organization and it's taken 3 weeks before they've had a kit turn up. You don't want to be doing that when you're paying 1,500 quid a day to someone and they can't do anything for you. So that's how I think you can be a good technology buyer, and some of the things to look out for. And a lot of it isn't about being an expert on technology. It's about understanding what you actually want out of the thing you're buying, so that you can be really clear about what you need, and make sure that the people selling to you can be really clear about how they're going to meet your needs. More than happy to take any questions, and I'll stick around at the end, and I'll be on the stand if you don't want to put your hand up in front of everyone. That's absolutely fine. But anyone want to ask any questions? No? Cool. Well, thank you for swinging by and attending today. It's very much appreciated. And enjoy the rest of the conference. I'll be over on Cynozure stand, which is sort of just by the refreshments area on this side. So swing by and say hello if you want to. Thank you very much.